went to visit my son who lives in Australia, and on that flight I read an in-flight article about a charity actually based in Australia called the Alani and Madeline Foundation. And what they did was produce these bags of love for children that had been sadly victims of domestic abuse. And, you know, sometimes that heartstring just pulls, and it really resonated with me. And I thought about it all the way home. And when I got back to the UK, I did my due diligence and sadly found out that over 48,000 children require emergency care every single year. And I just thought, gosh, you know, that's such a staggering amount. And what I wanted to do was to bring that concept over to the UK, because there was no service provider offering these bags of love, that I like to call them. So yeah, set myself a goal to set up a charity. Had no experience, as I said, in the third sector. And I set myself a goal that I wanted to deliver 20,200 buddy bags by 2020. That was back in 2015, when 2020 was what everybody was focusing on, and started putting together a business plan, because from day one I knew and understood how important it was to treat the charity as a business. That's all I knew, so that's how I did it. My other business, which is Utility Warehouse, I built up purely through networking. And when I went back to share with my networking colleagues my goal and my vision and passion, lots of people started volunteering their help and support. And I always said from day one there were three ways people could support us. Firstly, by donating their time, secondly, their services, and thirdly, fundraising. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But having set up or started to set the charity up, there were lots of hurdles, and I'm sure there's lots of people on the call who have had those same challenges. And it's not easy. You know, people often ask, you know, how would you set up a charity? And it is not easy. You really need to have a big vision and a huge purpose, and have a really good plan and lots of support to do it. But I think the number one philosophy that we had when we set up the charity was that we wanted 100% of what we raised to go into the buddy bag. And we knew, you know, having run successful businesses, that there would always be an admin cost, because you can't run a business without that. But my thought process was that by asking people to donate their services as part of their giving back, we could reduce those admin costs to a minimum. The other thing that was really exciting is I already had a team in place through my utility warehouse business, and I took the concept from Tony Robbins, who does the basket brigade every year, where groups of volunteers come together and they physically pack food parcels and distribute them into the community. And I love the idea of engaging with volunteers to be able to pack our buddy bags. So we set up what we call our buddy bag brigades, where we physically pack our buddy bags. So a buddy bag, it's for children who sadly have been victims of domestic abuse. They will have literally left their home, having left everybody they love and everything they own behind, and they will be relocated to a women's refuge in another part of the country, and often all they have are the clothes that they're standing in. So for them to have a bag of love that contains 12 essential items on their bed when they arrive is life-changing for them. And these bags that we produce need to be packed. So that's where the bag packing sessions came in from day one. So going back to 3 ways people can donate their or support BuddyBag Foundation is firstly their time. You know, time is our most precious asset. And I think when we're engaging with volunteers, not everybody can afford to give money, but they can possibly give a couple of hours of their time. So we always say just donate a couple of hours of your time and come and pack some buddy bags. And, you know, it's a fulfilling opportunity to make a difference and to fulfill their own purpose. And to date, we've held over 250 of these team building events, which is just amazing. We also have people knitting for us, people sewing toiletry bags and pencil cases. So what we've tried to do is engage with lots of volunteers who perhaps normally wouldn't have a purpose in their life. And if you can find something like that, not only are you making a difference to the children that are who are receiving the bags, but you're able to make a difference to the volunteers who are donating their time by producing items for your charity. Secondly, the services. So to date, we've had over £160,000 worth of services donated by companies as part of their corporate social responsibility. And I think my motto is, if you don't ask, you don't get. And again, a company may not have money to donate, but they've always got time and skills. So our website, our solicitor, accountant, printing, designer, everybody has donated their skills for free, which has meant we haven't had to spend any money on those costs, which is just amazing, really. And I remember right at the beginning, a lot of people said you won't be able to sustain that. Now, you know, we raise over £200,000 a year. We're classed as a small charity, but we have been able to sustain it because you can engage with lots of volunteers, you know, lots of people, you know, if lots of people give a little bit, it has a huge impact. And 7 years later, we have been able to sustain that. Saying that, we also have what we call BuddyBag Foundation Angels, who donate on a monthly basis, and that money that they donate goes into our restricted pot, which is kept for the small amount of admin costs that we have. So as a business, as a charity, we have been able to sustain it by encouraging BuddyBag Foundation Angels to support us. And then thirdly, fundraising. So each buddy bag costs £25. Without our fundraising partners, we couldn't produce the buddy bags that we do. We now have a lot of the items in the buddy bags sponsored or donated by companies. So we have pyjamas, pants and vests, toiletries, stationery items, reading book, and a knitted toy, or one of our lovely Buddy Bear teddies in the buddy bag. And like I say, each one costs £25. And, you know, we do what most charities do. We have a strategy in place. We work with our social media company, Brand Remarkable, and we sit down every 6 months and we put together a strategy on what we want to achieve, how much money we want to raise, what events we have coming up, and every month we create a social media strategy to ensure that we achieve those goals that we've set. And we've always achieved them because we've been totally focused and driven on those goals that we've set. By using social media, which I think is absolutely key, using it in the right way, giving the right messages out. For a small charity who who is setting up, or like us, you know, we're nationwide, we still need to raise awareness. It's that continuous drip of social media activity, keeping your content fresh, keeping it exciting, sharing lots of video and newsworthy stories. That's how we engage with our supporters. And what I find is that by drip feeding that information, I've noticed a lot of people observe you from afar, and they might not comment on anything, they might not contact you, but they're sort of observing your journey. And we've had so many people approach us saying, we're ready to get involved, we're ready now to support you. And on Saturday, I attended an event. A large organisation chose us as one of their charities. The lady that had nominated us had seen me speak at an event 6 years ago, and she'd always remembered us. She put us forward as one of the charities. It was an amazing event, and they raised a huge amount of money for us. And I just think, you know, never underestimate the power of networking, social media, because you might not see instant results, but you have to be patient. And when the time's right, these people will approach you. And I think I just want to mention how important networking is. Networking by joining a networking group on a weekly or monthly basis is absolutely priceless. I was used to networking because of my previous business, but by networking and sharing my vision and my purpose and my passion, so many supporters joined us on our journey by donating those 3 things I've just mentioned. And when you go networking, I'm always surprised how few charities you actually meet. And it's my top tip, you know, you need to network, you need to be professional, you need to build relationships with people, because that it's absolutely key to be able to achieve what you want. So recently I was at my weekly networking group, and we always share our dream referral. So my dream referral at that point was, and it was a dream, a real big dream, was to actually have our own head office, because we were working remotely and we had no storage, and it was just causing us lots of challenges that we didn't really need. So I put it out there to the universe, put it out there as my dream referral to the group. And in 2 weeks, I had somebody contact me who'd arranged a meeting with a haulage company in Sutton Coldfield, and they had some spare space, basically. The room, when I walked in, was even set up for a backpack, and Gemma's been there, she'll back me up on that. And it got a storage space, a kitchen, and the gentleman, local successful businessman, offered to sponsor that space for us. So now we have our own dedicated head office, and it's all sponsored, and we don't pay a penny for it. Now, I would never have had that opportunity if I hadn't have gone networking. So you've got to be specific, and that's all part of putting together your business plan of what you want or how you want your charity to look. So now we have storage, we have regular backpacking sessions there. And more importantly, what that's allowed us to do is to buy items in bulk. So now we have our pajamas, or we just launched a range of inspirational pajamas. We've been able to cut the cost by 50% because we've been able to buy in bulk, and we've got somewhere to store them. And we can now actually provide the exact number of bags a refuge would like, because we can be flexible, opposed to what we used to give them, which wasn't always beneficial. So yeah, networking is key. You know, you need everybody in your community to know who their local charity is, because a lot of people nowadays, they want to support locally, they want to give back to the community, and there's a lot of cases where they just don't even know who you are. So networking really raises your profile, and it's all about not just the people in the room, but the people that they know. And before you know it, you know, you raise your awareness massively. So Gemma, I've been babbling on. I'll just touch base with you if you've got any questions or.
Yeah, we do. Thank you for that, Karen. So our first question is, how do you keep your supporters up to date about your work that you're doing at BuddyBag?
Yeah, I think the key thing with supporters, probably firstly has been Facebook. We've got over 8,000 followers now on Facebook, and you know, like I mentioned, we send out, you know, regular content, which we also share on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. I think for supporters generally, Facebook is the key. I think for businesses, corporates, then LinkedIn is. So, you know, I use both. We also send regular newsletters to our supporters. Yeah, so probably newsletters and social media.
Yeah. Well, so following from that, how would you, or what's your management style then for your in-house team? Because if you're to get all of that done, you would need quite a busy team, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we are 100% volunteers,
Yeah.
so nobody's paid, which again is unique, and I think that's a huge selling point. And I know not all charities can survive just on volunteers, but you know, it's work for us. And again, I think it's getting a lot of people to do a small amount of work. So you know, we've just got a new bookkeeper, for example. We've split the treasurer's role into two. So we've got a treasurer trustee who does the management, but then we've got a bookkeeper who does the daily activity. I've got an organisation plan. So, you know, we've got the board of trustees, we have ambassadors, we have volunteers, and then we have lots of volunteers who support us with, you know, order supplying, liaising with the women's refuge centres, sending out resource bags. So each volunteer is given a manageable amount of work, and you know, I always have a conversation with them up front to say, you know, please can we have a transparent relationship. You know, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you know, please share. And I think it's really important to give volunteers projects that they can get involved in from start to finish, because they take more away from the projects doing it that way.
Yeah.
And I think the key for us, because we are volunteer led, is recognising our volunteers. So we have monthly awards. We recognise our volunteer of the month. We recognise our supporters of the month and suppliers of the month. And then, as you said earlier, and you were, you know, a guest at our annual awards, so that is an opportunity to recognise our volunteers, supporters, fundraisers. We make it a fun event, so we had like afternoon tea. We then had the official awards ceremony, and we give all our supporters a t-shirt. Volunteers love t-shirts. If you want to recognise your volunteers, then it's a great way. So every time we reach a milestone, so like our 100th bagpack, we had a t-shirt designed, our 200th, we had a t-shirt, and they love them because it's being part of something big and important. So yeah,
I actually do have one here.
Have you got one there?
I was wearing it the other day. This is why it's right next to me, but this, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, the Queen's Award one. Yeah, volunteer.
Yeah, it's very
So
comfortable.
again, we get those sponsored. We don't pay for them because they were sponsored by the Freemasons. There's even all the printing, so our fact sheets, our business cards, we get sponsored. But what's really important, whoever sponsors them, make sure that it's written on the document. So my business cards, for example, all have printed by Inktree, who sponsored them. So when I give a business card out, I make a point of saying, oh, we don't spend a penny on admin. Even my business cards have been sponsored by Inktree, so I haven't, there's no cost there. And little things like that make a big difference, because you're building that relationship up with your supporters, and all these different touch points that they see, they want to support you because they believe in your vision and your purpose, and everybody wants to make that difference.
Yeah. So you mentioned that networking was a very important aspect of it all and getting the volunteers. Are there any other methods that you use to find volunteers?
I think volunteers, a lot of it is referrals as well. Reference, people who have come to a bagpack and then they've told their family and friends. I look at our bagpacks, and if there's something you can do in your charity, it's your sales tool to promote your charity. So people come along to the bagpack, and then they have a humbling experience, and then they go away and share the charity to their family and friends, and then it just like organically grows really quickly. So if people take away a positive message, and I think, I know it's difficult for charities, and I think this is where we've got a real good selling point. A lot of volunteers don't want to just give money. They want to physically touch and see where that money's gone to. So if there's anything in your charity that you can create where you can invite volunteers to come and do an activity to support your charity, it just has a huge impact, because they want something tangible, something that they can touch. And when people come and physically pack the buddy bags, and I know, Gemma, you've packed bags, you do leave feeling humbled, and they say, don't they, that giving back, extends your life. It's been proven by, Harvard University in America that the more we give back, it makes us happier. It's proven that we live longer. And sometimes, you can wake up in the morning feeling really fed up and frustrated. And if you can go out, I might go to a bagpack, and, you just feel so good after doing it. And, that's the feedback we get from our volunteers and the knitters and, the people who make things for us. If you can give people that purpose, everybody wins, basically. Everybody wins. And I mean, we've engaged now with over 4,000 volunteers. We were very proud to receive the Queen's Award for the Jubilee. And, we did celebrate that at our recent awards. And it's a story. And I think stories are so important. If you can give your volunteers a story to share, again, you're throwing that net open wide for other people to want to get involved and support you.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, from my personal experience when I came to the bagpack, after I left, it was a bit of a mascara moment.
Yeah, mascara.
It was, but it was really rewarding, and it really made you think about things, but really made you feel so good that supporting children that need it the most. So definitely, it was an experience that wanted you to come back and do more.
Yeah, and that's what you want, isn't it? It's those regular supporters. And you know, we've had some amazing experiences, like the knitted toys, for example. There was a lady who knitted toys. She told her son about us. He happened to be the CSR manager for Jaguar Land Rover. He came to a backpack. He loved what we did. They chose us as their charity of the year, and I think they raised about £20,000 for us. And that was all on the back of this lady knitting toys for us. And there's lots of stories like that. And when I think about that, I think that journey is really important, because it's kept us going, and will continue to keep us going. And I think it's just looking at your charity, and when you're doing your strategic plan, it's just finding those touch points that you can use and take away and build on, to really raise awareness. Because if you can raise awareness, you're going to raise funds, and that's ultimately what we need to do.
Yeah. So we have another question. So what are some of the key ideas of raising donations, and how could another charity use it?
I think raising donations for me at the moment, our key area of focus has been with the corporates. Because corporates nowadays have a huge obligation to support charities, and they should have like a corporate social responsibility plan in place. And they often give their staff volunteer days to actually support a charity, and that's why it's important to have something they can do that you can offer them. They do have pots of money, and they will want to spend that money on charities. So you've got to be at the forefront of their minds. So again, through social media, you know, LinkedIn, you know, is key for corporates. But, you know, Facebook is equally as good, because often it's the employees who are asked to nominate a charity. So like the knitting lady, you know, talking to her son about BuddyBag, or Amazon, for example, you know, Amazon staff can put forward a charity, and I think they award a charity £1,000 a month. Now, the employee is more likely to see you on Facebook as part of your feed than perhaps on LinkedIn. So, you know, you've got to sort of look at all these different touch points. So we've been working with a lot of corporates. Again, the team building activity is key. We also do a challenge box, which is like a shoebox scheme. So individuals can donate items as part of the challenge box. So it's sort of looking, it's just really looking at ways that you can produce fundraising opportunities for individuals to make it relatively easy for them. So with the corporates, we put a team building activity on. We use the BuddyBag Brigade packing or the challenge box. And, you know, I'm passionate about helping charities with their corporate social responsibility. So my sort of motto is, it's not what a company can do for a charity, it's what a charity can do for a company. So switch it around completely, because I know I can offer a team building event to a company, and I know that their staff will absolutely benefit from it. So it's changing your mindset around a little bit, really, and building those relationships with the corporates. And the easiest and best way to do that is through professional business networking, because that's where they go. And you know, it's it's amazing how, you know, they will support you.
Great.
And the other thing we do as well, which I think is key, is we have a supporters page on our website. So all our supporters, we say, look, you know, we want to help you as much as you help us. So we put their link on our website, we promote them. So we network with our supporters, and I know a lot of our supporters have been connected together and they've done business, you know, as well.
Yeah.
So it's giving back to them as much as they're giving to you.
Yeah, wonderful. So we have another question. So what would you say are the 3 critical factors in achieving your fundraising goals, including digital fundraising goals? So digital fundraising, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is having a strategy, setting yourself goals, putting together a plan, and then, you know, reviewing those goals, you know, on a monthly, quarterly and 6-monthly basis. If you don't know where you want to go, you won't achieve it. So, you know, goal setting for me is absolutely paramount. So, you know, my next goal is to smash the 50,000 buddy bags. We're on 46,000 at the moment. My other goal is to smash the £1 million fundraised, and we're about 860,000 at the moment. You know, those are always goals that we're constantly working towards. So those are my goals. How am I going to achieve them? I need to break those down into bite-sized pieces. We need to have the social media strategy in place. We need to make sure that, you know, all the components of the working charity are in place, so that we're reviewing that, you know, the lady who does the Women's Refuge, that's working well, updating it, making it more streamlined, and building those relationships with all, you know, keeping in contact with people. And I think doing that, you know, through social media, through the newsletter, having awards, all positive, you know, positive impact really. Helps you achieve it. And you know, and like, you know, like a business, you need to have your you know, your forecast in place, keep an eye on your cash flow, and, like, you know, treat it like a business to make sure that, you know, monthly you're working towards those goals.
Yeah. Okay. So a good one here. So if there was one skill you would teach another charity, what would it be and why?
I think definitely networking.
Yeah.
I think networking is a skill in itself. I remember my first network meeting, and you have to stand up and do your 60 seconds, and I was like shaking with fear. You know, and then you have to do a 10-minute slot to present your business, and that was awful. So you have to get good at networking. You have to have the skills to do it well. And, you know, follow up is key. I think in business, but definitely in the charity world, you know, follow up is key. You know, on Saturday, you know, I had a couple of people contact me, gave me their business cards. You know, you've got to follow up on contacts like that. It's so I think there's a fact that 87% of people don't follow up, which is just crazy. So rather than keep looking for new business, you know, make sure you look after the people who you are dealing with on a daily basis, or who contact you. Be proactive rather than, you know, than reactive, really.
Yeah. So that might actually answer on the next question, which is, what do you personally spend most of your time on for your charity?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've tried to do is delegate as much as I possibly can. I mean, don't get me wrong, at the beginning, I was, you know, the majority of the day-to-day activities and implementations of systems I was heavily involved in. But now I've delegated a lot of those to volunteers. And like I say, if you delegate it as a project, they take ownership of that. And if they, you know, don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. Always have a backer. That's what I've learned. And, you know, top tip is don't always put all your eggs in one basket. Always have a plan B in place, because you never know when you're going to need it. And that's not always easy, but you need to be conscious of it, and work through it that way, really.
Yeah. Okay. So we have another one here, which is, have you experienced any failures along the way, and what did you learn from them?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, life's a journey, isn't it? And yeah, we wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good to. The one that spurs to mind for me, and I still regret it now, is that we were approached to do some advertising, and we were sold to, if you like, that, you know, we would benefit from it massively. And at the time, it looked like an opportunity that we couldn't miss. So we did invest in some advertising, and I think we got zero from it, which was really frustrating and upsetting at the time. I mean, we justified it, so it was the right decision at the time. But you know, with advertising, you never know. So I would never advertise again. And I think that's where it goes back to networking. With networking, you're meeting real people and you're building relationships with them. I'm not saying that, you know, advertising doesn't work, because I'm sure it does, but it's probably more that, you know, you're sowing those seeds and they come up to fruition later on in life. But for me, if I had the choice, I'd always go down the networking route. Okay. I think other failings really is, yeah, gosh, it's a good one, really. I always try and turn everything into a positive. So even if, yeah, my other big failing is I say yes too often. So it's happened about 3 or 4 times, and I still don't learn. I get contacted by a company who want to donate something, and I say yes, and then it arrives, and I just should have said no, basically. So the one that springs to mind is we were offered some toiletry bags. So I'd got a vision of these little toiletry bags to put in the rucksacks for these children, for the girls. I thought, brilliant. And when they arrived, they weren't that big. They were like humongous. And they were more like a storage bag. And I had like 3 pallet loads of them.
Wow.
So we couldn't put them in the bags because they were too big. So what we did, we turned it into a positive, and we sent them out to the women's refuge centres, because they were perfect, like toy bags to put toys in. So we did distribute them to the refuge, but not through the BuddyBags. And then I think another time, British Airways offered us a load of items that they were all like first class items, so lovely socks, but there was so many of them, and we just, yeah, a lot of those went to a homeless charity, and they used them for homeless. So and I think on that point, I just think it's really important to work with other charities. I think that's key. People think, oh, they're a competitor, and I never see it like that. I feel, you know, I work with an awful lot of charities. If I've got items, like I've just said, that we can't physically use, we will, you know, share them out to other charities that can, because I think, you know, we can all learn from each other, and yeah, it's really good to build those relationships with other charities if appropriate and applicable.
That's wonderful. So turn a failure into a positive. That's the way to go.
Definitely.
So we have just 2 other questions here. So what's your most successful project at BuddyBag, and why?
I think for me personally, the most successful project has been the BuddyBag Brigades. because they've become team building events. They've become sales events. So we recruit an awful lot of people from just holding those events. When I say recruit, you know, somebody might come along once to volunteer and then they become a permanent volunteer, or they might come along and then start raising money or collecting knitted toys. So it's a really amazing way to engage with your volunteers. And the actual corporate team building event now, you know, has become a really good sales opportunity for us. You know, it is a lot easier to get somebody to buy 180 bags as part of a team building event than ask 180 people to donate £25. So it's what you'd call, you know, you're increasing your mark, you know, your exposure really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, sorry, we just have two more. So going off from a previous question, which was about the raising donations, do you have any advice on how to raise donations digitally? So, sorry, let me read the question out. So what's your advice on raising donations digitally?
I think raising donations digitally, we do put posts out on social media asking for donations. I find asking generally doesn't always work, whereas if you ask for donations as part of a project, it's a lot more successful. Okay. So we have ambassadors who are all over the country, and their role is to raise awareness for BuddyBag Foundation. And their goal is to raise £4,500, which is the cost of a BuddyBag brigade. Now, when you promote it like that, people are more inclined to donate because they know that the money is going to a backpack and they can actually physically see that money and where it's going. That works really well. Recently, we've raised money for Ukraine, so Buddy Bags for Ukraine, and that just flew through. I mean, obviously it was poignant at the time.
So we have one last question. What are the 3 pieces of wisdom or advice you would give to small charities and local good causes to become resilient and sustainable in the next 3 to 6 months with the recent UK, you know, economic situation that's happening?
I think the key thing is to have a good strategy in place. I think it's about sharing with your supporters why you're doing what you're doing. So during lockdown, sadly, domestic violence went up by 400%. And we still got lots of donations coming through, even though people were on furlough and, you know, people were struggling because they related to that fact and they wanted to support the children that, you know, were in refuge as a result of that. So whatever charity you're in, it's looking at the stats and it's sharing those. And if you like, it's pulling at those heartstrings. It is tough for people out there, but, you know, other ways people can support us is by, you know, knitting. So knitting, you know, you can buy recycled wool at a charity shop. You know, a knitted toy is worth £4.50 to us. So there are other ways that people can support us, you know, toiletry bags and pencil cases by sewing. So it's looking at areas of your charity where people can get involved that can keep the cost down. I mean, recently we've had 6,000 bamboo toothbrushes donated, so that saved us £6,000. They were going to be they couldn't sell them. They would have been sent to landfill or whatever. So again, if there's either services or products that your charity uses, look at it strategically to see if people can donate those items rather than you having to fundraise to buy them, because it will keep your costs down. And I think that's absolutely key, depending on sort of the type of charity you are. And be specific and you know, have a strong message when you're putting it out onto social media. And the other great way to do that is through video. You know, we can do some really good video content around, you know, the need for our buddy bags, for example, that you know, can encourage people to make a difference and donate. And you know, also like with our challenge box, people donate towards that. Now, you know, you might have, everything has to be brand new, but you might have a tube of toothpaste or you know, a packet of pants that your child hasn't worn and they're still in the packaging that you can donate. So we're not asking necessarily for money. It can be, and I think that's the way you've got to look at it in times of need, like potentially we could have over the next sort of 3 to 6 months, look at different ways of attracting what you need in your charity.
Yeah.